Hi guys, this is Mattiace, and as I'm sure you understand, I feel rather compelled to try my best to explain the slippery, the brain fart, whatever you want to call it, from the Swedish Prime Minister that has created such an enormous avalanche of misinformation, lies, and disinformation. You got to separate these two: misinformation and disinformation. I think, unless I'm confused here, I think disinformation or disinformation is when you are purposely misleading and spreading false information, while misinformation is just if you do it unknowingly. Anyway, so I haven't really had a lot of time to prepare this, because this is a quite tricky thing to explain, and I'm gonna have to put some time into explaining this when it comes to language. So the Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson tried, he said something like, let me see, I guess I gotta get this right. Israel has the right, Israel har rätt till folk, and when he stops at folk, people want to translate this into genocide, like it's the first part of genocide. So let's start with the language. Let's do that first. So the Swedish word for genocide is folkmord, and this in itself presents a massive problem in this context. Now, the word folkmord contains of two different words. Folk means people, mord means murder. This combined means what in English is called genocide. Now, the word folk, like the word people, the Swedish word folk, is something that you use all the time in horrible situations like this, when you need to describe, like in this case, like the people of Israel, the people of Palestine, the people this, people that. You use that word all the time. And what Ulf Kristersson is trying to say is folkrätten. Now, this is the right of the people, and I mean, it's human rights. Folkrätten is like human rights, and of course people could bother to try to translate that if they wanted to, but they don't. They want to spread lies and deception, and this is the situation we find ourselves in. So what the problem here is, like, so Ulf Kristersson is trying to say folkrätten, that it is human, it's a human rights, it's Israel's human rights to defend themselves. That's what he's trying to say. But when he speaks, he says the word rätt, which is right, or he's using that word before he intends to say folkrätten, and that becomes weird because you say the word rätten twice in a row, and he's brain farting, right? And people are deliberately trying to translate this into like him trying to say genocide. Now, one of the countries that has been very, very active in, or well, I take that back, that has been spreading some of this misinformation or disinformation is Turkey. Now, this is very interesting because genocide in Sweden is extremely serious. It's extremely. When it comes to the Holocaust, like in the German Holocaust, the World War II, this is something that in some countries in Europe it's illegal. Now it's you're actually breaking the law if you deny this. Sweden is one of those countries. I know Germany is also, and I don't know what other European countries are. I know that you are allowed to deny it in America, for example, and in Israel, but you're not allowed to deny it in Sweden. So genocide is extremely serious in Sweden. Now the strange thing about this, or the ironic thing about this, is that Turkey is accused of committing genocide on like 1 million Armenians, and here the roles are reversed. In Turkey, I'm not sure if it's illegal or if it's just so frowned upon to acknowledge that if you do, you basically ruin your life, you ruin your career. From what I've heard, I hear different things about this in Turkey. That if you acknowledge the genocide on the Armenians, I don't know if you can go to jail or just lose your job or whatever. While in Sweden, if you deny the Holocaust, your career is over. And yeah, you could actually be sentenced in a court of law. I don't know what the sentence would be, but you ruin your life. You definitely ruin your life if you do that. I mean, the irony of that. One country, it's illegal to acknowledge a Holocaust or genocide. In our country, it's illegal to deny it. And yet, the people that makes it illegal or makes it almost impossible to acknowledge a genocide of 1 million people, they are now trying to moral preach us about a brain fart. Now, what's important to point out about this also is that we in Sweden, we find ourselves in this situation mainly because Sweden is per capita the #1 country when it comes to receiving Muslim immigrants. This, of course, I'm referring to a few years old data. If this data is somewhat different over the last 2 or 3 years, then okay, fine, I'm wrong about that. But for about a decade at least, I think it was, Sweden was the #1 country. It basically started with the war in Yugoslavia with the Kosovo, also Muslims, and in that case the Serbian people. So it was Islam again, ironically. But so where to continue? Now Ulf Kristersson has actually explained this partly in Swedish national TV, and probably, you know, there, if you want the explanation, it's there. So that's the thing, people don't. But I probably should follow this up. I know it's like there's so much to explain, but all right, yeah. Another thing I need to mention, by the way, is that one of the reasons why somebody like Ulf Kristersson makes this slip up is because of the problem that happens with us when we, like me, I'm Swedish, and I grew up speaking Swedish, but when we are in situations where we are more or less forced to speak another language, like English, what happens is that you have to learn so many things in order to express yourself that sometimes it messes up your own language. And I can assure you, I have done that plenty of times. And the more new you are to a new language, like the more unfamiliar you are with, in this case, English, the worse that gets. And here I'm also talking about experience. Now, I can, for the most part, keep a conversation up in English without a problem, right? But, or at least I can, no, not without a problem. I can make myself understood. And I make tons of mistakes. I just don't really care because I can get away with it. The problem with Ulf Kristersson is that his English is far, far worse than mine. Almost all the politicians are. They are terrible at English. And what this does is that when they then try to speak Swedish, like in Ulf Kristersson's case, he has basically just been speaking Swedish as a leader of a political party, only keeping it national in Sweden. And then all of a sudden, when he's the prime minister, he's forced into situations where he has to speak English. And this messes with your brain, especially when your English is as bad as a normal Swedish politician, including Ulf Kristersson. And again, speaking of experience here, so this is one of the explanations to why he makes this kind of a brain fart. And if you haven't been in that situation, like most people, you see, like when Erdogan speaks in front of an international crowd, he speaks in Turkish. He doesn't speak English. Most politicians, they speak their own language. But in a conversation, like when these people meet in whatever parliament or whatever discussions they have, a Swedish politician will be speaking English a lot. And that is what's happened to Ulf Kristersson. He's now been thrown into a situation where he has to speak English a lot to other political leaders. He's not used to it, messes with your brain. And again, speaking from experience. So, this brain fart, this slip up, should be nothing more than just a silly, typical Joe Biden situation. That's basically all it should be. But it has become so much more severe. There seems to be a what do they call it? A dirt campaign going on against Sweden from certain kind of extremist groups where I mean, the Quran burnings has been part of that campaign, where Sweden has been attacked and accused for things that where other people, where, you know, people from Denmark and Iraq is abusing loopholes in the law, and then we get blamed for it. It's similar to like when you know, when A$AP Rocky, the Afro-American rapper, was attacked in Stockholm, and for days people were talking about how racist Swedish people are. All the Sweden is so racist. Sweden is so, they attack this black guy because they are all racists, and yeah, they live up in the north and see how white they are and all that stuff. You know, I saw so many of these podcasts going on about, you know, they were just pounding out how racist Swedish people are, when a couple of days later it becomes clear that the person that actually attacked A$AP Rocky was a Muslim immigrant from Afghanistan who's been in Sweden for about 4 years, consistently received Swedish welfare during this time. He has been allowed to stay in Sweden despite not being a refugee or not qualifying for asylum status. And he has consistently, or had at the time, consistently been committing crimes these 4 years. So when that immigrant from Afghanistan attacks A$AP Rocky, we Swedish people are deemed racists. And this is just going on and on and on and on and on. And what's also interesting about this is that just recently there was a riot in Ireland, in Dublin, and that not that I know the details, but it's kind of ironic because I made a video about how Bono from U2, who is from Ireland, was accusing Sweden for being Nazis for the success of the Sweden Democrats in the previous election, not the latest but the one before. And as I had some discussions about this, a lot of Irish people, and I don't wanna come across as condescending towards Irish people, because I know that these types of situations draws out a certain type of people, right? So and they accused, oh, you Swedish people, you can't stand up for yourself, or you Swedish people are so lame, we Irish people, it would never happen here. And here we are just a few years later. But yeah, if I'm talking out of context, I do apologize, but there is so much happening right now. And yeah, I just need to go for a walk and get this out of my chest, as I'm sure you understand. So What can we expect to happen from this? I don't see anything good coming. I really, really don't. The situation in Sweden is just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And with the war in Palestine now, Israel-Palestine, the hatred towards Sweden, the hatred towards our democracy, the hatred towards our life, us, is just booming. Like the things that was completely unacceptable to say when it comes to anti-Semitic slur. If a Swedish person said it, it would be like, it's unimaginable. Like you'd probably go to jail for it, or at least some legal repercussion. And they are saying it openly now about eradicating the Jewish population and so on and so forth. I don't even know what to say. But we can of course always hope that this is a relatively small part of the population. We can tell ourselves this, and we can hope that that's the case. We can hope that things will get better. I don't see it though. I really don't. But yeah, I hope you are doing good, and I want to thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.